Good morning. In fact, I thought I still had another hour before 8 AM Eastern Time, because here in the UK the clocks went backwards an hour on Sunday morning, and I just realised it's not 8 AM but it's 9 AM Eastern Time right now, so my brain is out of sync at the moment. So I've not really looked at any levels. I've literally just opened up my charts for the first time just a few seconds ago. So we've got some levels from last week. I can see in the 15 minutes. Let's go into the hourly. This is the MES. So first of all, economic news. I don't think there's any today from memory. 10:30, we've got something that could move the market. The Fed manufacturing index. So nothing of high importance today. So back to MES. I'm going to be watching similar levels to last week. An area I was particularly interested in, maybe a double bottom here at 41.22. So I'm just going to change my level. 41.22.25 is a potential bounce, and we had a level from a few months ago just below that. So this entire area down to 41.20. So that's an area I'll be watching for. I was hoping we'd see a bigger bounce this morning, but we haven't. We're kind of still well within. It's an inside day, so we've got to be a bit wary. So let's look at the daily, see where we are. So usually every Monday I go through, I start off with the weekly and the daily, and I just want to see if there's anything I want to identify. So 41.20 we've just seen as a pivot. We've got this higher volume bar but indecision candle from Friday. Similar volume bar from Thursday as well, and then we had a lower volume bar, so we had a higher volume. So whether we're coming to an end of a downtrend or end of a wave, can't really tell. Today will be the key. So we've got this level to break, so we're watching these two levels, which is 41.20 area for a breakdown and 41.85 area for a push up. We'll refine that in the hourly, and you can see it's an area of resistance. I'm just going to put a daily level in there, and the reason I like that area is because we've got tops of candles, tops of candles, tops of candles, top of this pivot. So this is a big area of demand anyway, and we tested it again up here before we broke through, came back and retested it to go on the bullish side, and we come back down to those areas. We kind of broke through it, but we're coming back and we're retesting that area. So potentially I'm watching this area for a potential rejection, and that would be around 4200, that number again, through to 41.90. So that's an area I'm watching for potential rejection, and we can refine that. Let's have a look at the moving average. So as you can see, we're well below the 200 moving average. So big hedge funds and the smart money will potentially see this as shorts rather than longs. If we get above the 200, then they'll be looking to put some long bets on. So what have we got for this week? Potentially we could see a bit of a pullback up to 42.40. It will be well within the trend we're seeing, this trend here. Let's just draw that in more accurately. And interesting though is the fact we've got increasing angles. So you can see here, we can see the decline is a steady decline there, and then the angle changes quite a lot. So we are in a bit of a downfall moment at the moment. So let's just refine this now on the hourly. So we've got this daily level. It's not a 50 moving average, get rid of that label. So 4200, 41.90 is an area I'm going to be waiting for a potential rejection. And then for a bounce, I quite like the double bottom down here at 41.22. So that's an area I'm watching. And we've also got this downward trend line as well, which I've just put in and we're potentially watching, in fact this is where everything lines up. The daily level lines up with this area of support, and potentially we could see the 200 coming into that area as well. So I think 4200 is going to be a rejection area for me. That's a higher probability rejection area, so that's what I'm watching for today. I'm going to be more patient today. Friday I wasn't patient at all, even though the levels worked. Had I just been patient and took my level, I would have made one trade and I could have ended my day on a decent green day. But in fact I was far too impatient. That's the level I was watching on Friday, 41.50, and I was trying to go short and go long, go short. It's a bit of a mess, and I overtraded and paid the price. And I tried going long on this move down as well, trying to catch the levels, but there was no real levels. So today I'm going to be patient. I'm going to stick with the levels I've got. So we're watching, just to recap, 4200 potential rejection. We've got 41.85, which is the tops from the pre-market. But that's pre-market Thursday, and it's this pivot again on Thursday. I meant pre-market's on Friday, and this pivot. Yeah, no, I still like 4200. That's the area I'm going to wait for. This area here for a rejection, and it'll be off this trend line as well. So there'll be a few areas to keep an eye, and also it's a level of confidence as well, as we saw on the daily. And then for a bounce, definitely 41.22. Potentially, we're nowhere near that at the moment. We could be looking at a left shoulder ahead, and whatever this decides to set up, maybe a right shoulder. Something to watch for, pattern to watch for in the next few days. But there's no real levels, I don't think. That's about all I can see. And then for a scalp, we could watch for a rejection of the pre-market high. Bear in mind it rejected this 50 moving average, which is starting to curve over. So as it's curving over, potentially could be waiting for a break and retest long. So that's, I'll probably favour a long because we're in an hourly uptrend than a short. So potentially a break and retest of 41.66, 41.70 as a long. And I think that's the only plays I'm watching. Excuse me. So looking at SPY. Look at the daily first. So we've come into this area of demand, which is based on this pivot here. There's no real volume as well from Friday. Volume was reduced, so it doesn't look like it wants to turn around just yet. But we are seeing a bit of a bounce. We could be, and it's an inside day today, so similar to the MES. What levels do I like? Again, I'm sorry I didn't have my levels in advance. I thought I had an hour left before at 9 AM. I didn't realise where the UK clocks went backwards on Saturday. I forgot that the US clocks don't go back as well. Is that next week, I think. Again, we've got this potential head and shoulders, and we're looking at potential right shoulder. So this would be the neckline, 415, if that is the case. So potentially I'm looking at I prefer 417 to 418 as a rejection area, and we've got this pivot as well. So that's the area I like for rejection. High risk rejection here, but probably be patient and wait for that level. And a 409.21 bounce, 410 bounce, so maybe a double bottom. And that would be a higher probability bounce on the 410 level. And that's it. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I'm a little bit under the weather today. You can tell my voice is going on a bit of a cough. I don't want you to be listening to me coughing. So back on the SPY, I quite like 417, 418. That's a higher probability rejection. I thought about it, and possibly 415.40 level we're watching on Friday as a higher risk rejection, and that's basically because of we've got this higher area of confidence, bottoms and tops of candles, and then a potential bounce at 409. So that's the areas I'm watching really. On Qs, what do we have there? Okay, so Qs is putting in a lower low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Oh, not quite broken the high, but we could be still in the move. So we could be looking at a turnaround here. You can see we can put a trend line. So that's our trend line we're watching. If we break the trend line, then potentially we're putting in a bit of a bear flag. So this could be the flag pattern here. And let's just clone that line. That area there. So the reason I chose that area, got pivots coming into that lower trend line there. Top of candles, top of candles, top of candles. So this is the area to watch for. So if this 50 moving average holds and we break down, we'll be looking for congested volume around here before a breakdown. We could look for a break and retest of this trend line, and that'll be around 347.22. Or if we see continuation on the trade, we may see it just come all the way up to this upper trend line, and we've got 351.40 area, which is this previous areas watching on Friday, which is the bottoms of this pivot here, and so 351 to 352 for potential rejection. And like I said, it could even be setting up just play between this trend line. So two potential trades: the break and retest of this trend line here, and then we would need to break this pivot. So 345, 346 break and retest. I quite like that. So once it come out, come back up, retest it and break down. If we break this pivot, 344, 345, 344.50, then we could look for a continuation trade back down as well. So that's another area to watch for. So I'm just, in fact, that'd be a higher risk because it's not really a good. It's only a it's Friday's low, so that's an area we're watching for. We could also see a bounce off of Friday's low as well, so that's a potential bounce or break and retest. So 344. Let me just clone. So we're watching 344.33 for a potential bounce. That area there, and obviously we've got this bottom. If we come into this area, we saw relatively high volume when it came into that area as well. We saw high volume coming into that area, so we know there's should be some support down there at some point. So these are areas I'm watching for. Lower Thursday, lower Friday for potential bounces or break and retest of the trend line. Okay, going on to NQ or Nasdaq futures. Exactly same as Qs. We're potentially putting in this shape, this formation. Saying if we do, then we could see it break out of that area for the push up, or we could see it break down. If it breaks down, this is a key pivot, 14,200. That's Friday's lows. And then we've got 14,136, which is Thursday's lows. So they're the areas, same as the Qs. We're looking for potential bounces at these areas. If we don't see the bounce and a break and retest and continuation of the downward trend, we are in a downtrend, don't forget. So we're putting in this downtrend. So the overall picture is a downtrend, and we're putting in a potential bear flag in this downtrend. So bear that in mind. So I don't want to go into any trades with any bias at all. So we want to bias it in either direction, but knowing that we are in a downtrend. Let's look at oil. Look at that. I think I'll put the trend line in here once we have these two pivots, and it's bounce, 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 bounce. So how many times does it want to be knocking on this door? Potential head and shoulders set up there using this trend line as a neckline. So 83.71. What's the volume like? Big volume in that push up on Wednesday. Reducing volume on the inside day on Thursday. It was a bad trading day, you can see. And we had a fake breakout as well. We tried to break out and reject as well. Potentially putting in a bear flag. But we've got a trend line. We can see this upper trend line here as well. So I'd quite like 86 as a rejection area based off of coming off of this. This is the 200 moving average. It curved around. Now it's curving back down again. So potentially if we get up to that area, it might be worth looking for a rejection. And we've got big area of supply as well. We've got this area of which was the ceiling, became the floor, and then became the ceiling again, and is still the ceiling. So that's the area to watch for 86 to 86.50 for rejection. Or we could see this setup coming into play where we could be looking to form down before we break down or up. But we'll play by ear on that. I'll watch these throughout the day. Lastly, gold. And if you recall, I quite like the daily on the gold last week. Excuse me. So the daily, look at that, we're right at that pivot area now. I quite like this area. We saw it just sitting in there, looking like it's putting in volume on. Look at that, we had this big volume bar come in on these candles here. Possible breakout there. What's the volume like? Above average volume. And we've got this bar here, so potentially putting in a 3-bar play. And we could be looking for a breakout over 2020. So that's an area I quite like. So let's just put in an alert to remind me to keep an eye on it. If it gets over 217 for a potential break, and I prefer to go for a break. This potentially is the break and retest. We're looking at it right now, this bar. So it broke through, came back, but I prefer to see a bit of daylight on the break and retest. What I mean by that is I like to see it come up, pull back down. This is the daylight area, and then push up over a couple of candles. So let's take a look on the hourly. Look at that for uptrend. I think 2000 was that level. It broke 2000, it came back in, so potentially there's a play right now for a push up. Okay, I'll keep an eye out on the open and see where we are. But I do quite like gold. And look at that, if you want to look for a break and retest, that is the break and retest there. But it happened today in the post market, pre-market. Let's see how this plays out. But I'm quite keen to take a swing trade on gold, or I really wanted to get that as an option, as a futures trade for a day trade position. Okay, so if it comes back down, I'm watching this area here again, 2000, a round number as well. I feel like we missed the boat a bit on that now, but we may see it just consolidate for a bit. See that volume spike as well on that push up. Let's just zoom in. This is a nice buy setup as well. Look at that, came in. If you were to draw your trend line in there, it broke the trend line, broke the VWAP, bottom tails, reduced volume on the pullback, increased volume on this area here, and then the break above that level shows an increase in volume as well. So buyers are definitely interested. I'll have a look at the open and look for some gold ETFs. I might just take a speculative long wherever we are at the open. But I'll keep an eye. Hopefully we can get a bit of a pullback at the open for the push. And then I'll try and get a gold ETF as an options trade. Okay, I think that's it really. Just go back to MES. Just want to recap the levels. Quite like 41.85 as a potential rejection area. Potentially a high risk rejection pre-market or break and retest. 41.64. The area I'll be watching would be 41.65 area, break and retest long to continue this micro uptrend on the hourly. Like I said, remember we're in the trend, we're still in a downtrend. So this will be more of a scalp up than a full size position. But rejection of a 41.85 and 4200, they're the areas I'm watching for. And a bounce if we come down to 41.22. Potentially 41.50 area. Like I said, if this seems to be setting up a bit of a shoulder, we could be looking for that pattern. So keep an eye out for this pattern. We're not near that. It was not confirmed head and shoulders until we get the neckline and then the pullback. But we could be watching for a potential long on the creation of this shoulder as well, the right hand shoulder. Depends how risky you want to play it. You could risk it on the shoulder area here, or you can wait for the break and retest. That's a better trade there, more probable. And the break and retest will be the break of this trend line, the retest as well. So there's a few reasons to take that if we do see that set up. But we could just be seeing just a, we might just still see that. So quite a few scenarios we can look for. Okay, so that's it really. So a bounce at 41.22, possibly a bounce at 41.50, high risk. A break and retest of pre-market highs and this 50 moving average. Continuation. High risk rejection at 41.85 and a higher probability rejection at 4200 to 4205. And these have been key areas in the past as well. If you go back a few months, you'll see these areas have been in play for some time. And obviously we've got this 4210, 4220 area as well to keep an eye on. But I'll look at them in detail as we get closer to them. But I quite like the rejection of this trend line. Look what happened last time we rejected it. There, big move down. Reject it there, big move down, or a couple big bars down. We touched it there, and we had this big move down. So potentially we might touch it again with the daily level and the supply zone and the levels we're watching, 4200 psychological number. We might see another big move down. So that's kind of that's why I quite like that area. But we'll see when we get there. Okay, well, market opens in 5 minutes. I'm not really prepared. I've not got my platform open, so I'll be watching the market for 10 minutes. Just get my head back into it. Again, sorry for the delay. I said in the UK here, our clocks went back at the weekend, but we're always a week behind everyone else, so US clocks I think go back next week. So my timeline today is a bit out of sync. I thought I had an extra hour. I was literally eating my lunch when I realised. I started getting notifications come through on my phone thinking, that doesn't seem right. And then I realised I'm well out by an hour. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see some of you in the Discord room, or I'll be back in tomorrow at 8 AM. Which is a little bit earlier in the UK, and that'll be 1 PM here in the UK, not 2 PM as normal. Okay.